Wow. All right. Or did you all, or did everyone leave, I guess? Before we start, I'm really happy that Secretary Dunn introduced the opportunities of recreation for our community and for Pennsylvania more generally. You know, we can't make those things happen until we fix some of our major challenges. So I'm just going to share a brief video that was filmed by some people from Reimagine Appalachia to the studios at the Appalachian Folk Festival regarding our work here in Indiana and what we're striving for.
And I'm a parent and a resident here of Indiana, Pennsylvania. I also am a cultural anthropologist. I work at IUP. As a parent raising kids here, it's really challenging to have the awareness that so many of our waterways don't support life. And there are many places that it's not safe to swim or to fish. I get really excited when I see all of the community members that pull together and dedicate themselves to cleaning up these places. Federal funds are really important in recognition of the work that people have long been doing here. It helps to support their work in very meaningful ways. Abandoned mine drainage and abandoned wells, all of these are part of our industrial legacy that created jobs in our area, but left problems for our environment and our communities. We need to diversify our economy here. Our coal plants are closing. People are losing their jobs. Having some tourism and recreation around these waterways is a really important part of our economic future. And it really also helps to strengthen those ties between these young people and these places. They can see a future for themselves, right? In communities that are often losing population and losing young people.
I couldn't have said it better, and that was Amanda Poole, an anthropology teacher here at IUP and part of the Sustainability Studies program. Speaking really eloquently about some of our challenges here. But that brings us to panel 2, where we're going to look at our environmental challenges and the economic opportunities that they may be able to create, like tourism. So today, I'm going to let them introduce themselves, but each of them in their own capacity are impacting the waterways of Indiana County, and making them safer, better places, and more opportunistic places for county residents and economic opportunities. Postures. Targets.
I hate awkward silence.
Yeah.
So, I will take the time to introduce myself. I'm John Smoyer. I'm the AMD Planning and Development Section Manager out of the Bureau of Abandoned Mine Reclamation for the Bituminous Coal Field. We have our only office in Evansburg, so we cover 33 counties out of there. I get a really cool job for a living. I get to try to take stuff that nobody is left responsible for and fix it in shortest terms. This is kind of going to be an interesting talk, assuming that we can find it, because my audience is normally technical folks. I'm normally talking geology and chemistry, but we're going to look at this more from the perspective of what is the economic impact of the work that we do. And I've actually never been set up so well in a talk by people, including the Secretary of Agency, to kind of lead us into the kind of the long-term sustainability and economic benefit of what we do. So I'll let Ryan introduce himself.
Sure. My name is Ryan Farabaugh. I also work with VII, the Bureau of Abandoned Mine Reclamation. I'm the project manager on the Blackwood Creek treatment project that we're going to be talking to you about. So I kind of oversee construction. We've been under construction for the last 2 years. Hopefully here, right after Thanksgiving, we should be able to turn the treatment plant on and get operating and start treating these discharges.
Yes.
Okay.
But while we're waiting, I would think most people being familiar with Indiana County, know of our Blackwood project. If you've been down to the far southeast corner, next to the Camden County line, near Middendale, it's very, very obvious. It's right along Wareham Road. You can't miss it.
And the trail.
And the trail. We're gonna get into the trail and the benefits of this and how this is going to, mesh with the trail very, very well. For those who've been on the Ghost Town Trail, of course, what do you see when you look at Blackwood?
Red and dead.
It is red and dead for not all of it, but a lot of sections of it. We're gonna get into that. We got it here. Okay, so with that, we're gonna get off and running so that poor Ben has some time left here. Okay, so the basic setup, I kind of set it up here. We're down in the southeast corner by Vindale. The Ghost Town Trail follows and parallels the Blackfoot Creek. We have 3 mine pools and their associated discharges that we're dealing with. The Red Mill discharge, which comes out of the Commercial 16, the Vent 6, and then the Wareham 2 and 3, which is discharged in Wareham Shaft. All 3 of those mines are in the Lower Canyon coal seam. They are adjacent to each other, just divided by barriers. So there's 3 individual discharges that outlet the water from each individual mine. The discharges hit the north branch of Blacklick and then Blacklick Creek in the main stem in the case of the Wareham Shaft. So there's a real quick look at the mine pool map. I'm not going to get too far into that. There's a lot of information there, but there's 3 separate mine pools that we are going to combine and bring together to one common treatment plant. So looking through these, that's the Commercial 16 up at Red Mill Rifle Club on the north branch of Blacklick. If anybody is familiar with that, you can see that along the Ghost Town Trail as you're coming down towards Vintondale, and it's right after you cross the rail bridge. You can see where the Commercial 16 discharge comes in. Here's some drone footage going up through there. It'll be kind of obvious off on the right-hand side where that comes in. The field area that you're seeing to the right there, where you can still see a little bit of silt fence, that was a refuse pile that we removed and reclaimed, got that out of the way. And there you're starting to see the discharge come in on the right-hand side. It by itself is not a killer to Blackfoot Creek. It does do a lot of damage to the north branch, but it, once combined with the loading from the discharges that are further downstream, ultimately the 3 sisters that we're going to see here in a minute and the Wareham Shaft are kind of the nail in the coffin for Blackfoot. So there's we call them the 3 sisters. They're 3 relief boreholes that were drilled directly into the north branch of Blacklick to intercept the mine underneath. It's a long story, but ultimately the mine pool was raising so high underneath the town of Vindondale that the mine pool was inundating basements. So the only location with a low enough surface elevation to be able to relieve that pressure was actually in the stream. They did that back in the 90s. And now we could finally get the opportunity to kind of fix the pollutional problem and kind of There's a good look at them at high flow. So that's just the pressure coming out of the mine. Shooting that's probably 5 feet in the air anyway. So there's over 1,000 gallons a minute right there. And here's a good look at the vent 6. That is the Three Sisters. That's the mine pool that's relieved by the 3 fountains in the north branch of Black Lake right above the confluence with the north branch and south branch. How to see our construction site there. That's one of our pumping locations off on the right-hand side of the pipe stuff was there. And you're soon to pick up, there's the trail over top of the north branch coming down in the Ghost Town Trail, which parallels this. And you can already start to see the pollution start to come together before they hit the south branch. And here's the Weir shaft, which is a little bit further downstream from another 700 gallons a minute of AMD. We'll take a look at it. There's a lot of beavers have moved in downstream of that. Those curious guys just don't care about water quality. All they need is water and some trees to chew on, and they're good. So you do see a lot of like the orange kind of swamp in there, and that's just the AMD reacting in the beaver impoundments. So in some indirect way, they're probably providing a little bit of treatment, but in a few weeks here, their main water supply is going to go away. And there's where it hits the main stem of Blackwood Creek. Kind of see the plume of iron and aluminum coming out. At that point, Blackwood looks pretty bad anyway. So there's some real quick pollution loading. This is the normal stuff that I talked about, but in pounds per day, when you add it all together, particularly the iron, okay, so 2,000 pounds is a ton. What you've got there, if you think of it in simplest terms, is like a dump truck load of iron being dumped into the stream every day from these discharges. That's why it's orange. So here's what the Black Lake looks like in typical low flow. It's what it looks like now because we haven't had any major rain events to scour the bottom. Streams aren't supposed to be orange. The Black Lake is an absolutely gorgeous stream. I've been over probably every length of it at this point. The gorge going through the valley, which is essentially the same geologic feature as the Conemaugh Gap, this is just a little bit further north, is every bit as impressive, where it goes, from kind of Heshman and Dilltown on the Black Lake. Spring of the year is easily class 5 whitewater. So there's going to be a lot of potential here once Black Lake starts to come back to life and is no longer orange. Now I'm going to turn this thing over to the guy who's been overseeing the actual construction of this plant and go from there.
Okay, so the problem is obviously the 3 discharges. So what was the solution? The department entered into a contract with Tetra Tech engineering firm as a consultant design. And between the department and Tetra Tech, the solution was basically a centralized mine drainage treatment facility. The plant design flow, max flow would be 5,000 gallons a minute, which equates to 7.2 million gallons a day. Typical average annual flow, like on a daily flow, would be more like in the 2,800 gallon per minute range. So what I wanted to do is just kind of take just a quick tour of how we're going to get the water from the discharges to the plant, just kind of go through the treatment cycle. So the Red Mill discharge, that site location is approximately 3 miles upstream of where the treatment plant is. We didn't necessarily want to put in 3 miles of pipeline just due to the expense. Luckily, the way the coal mines sit, the Red Mill discharge, where it comes out of a former slope entry, it sits right over top the Vinton mine pool. So we're basically able to drill 2 boreholes, approximately 240 feet straight down. And so we'll be able to collect the Red Mill discharge and just dump it into the Vinton mine pool, which sits below us. The Vinton mine pool, we're basically, what we did, we constructed 2 extraction well buildings there that you can see basically at the Rex's trailhead. And so from here,
This sits about only upstream about 3/4 of a mile from where the Vinton extraction wells are to the plant site. So from this location, there is 20-inch HDPE pipe going from here to the plant site. That's how we get the water from Vinton up to the treatment plant site. One thing I wanted to mention here, we're right along the Ghost Town Trail here. We wanted to thank both Indiana County Parks and Trails, especially Ed Patterson, working with them. We got an easement through them along the trail to run that pipeline up along there. So they've been very good to work with, a very good working relationship the whole time through construction. So I just wanted to mention that. Another aspect, thinking about the conference today and talking about sustainability, how that works in with the treatment plant. One thing you're going to see through all the slides here of the plant is we have a lot of redundancy. So as you can see here, we have 2 extraction well buildings, 2 extraction well pumps. So sustainability, we want to be able to sustain treatment. Once we start treating water, we don't want to turn it off. So we do that through redundancy. If whether it's general maintenance or we have an emergency, one of the pumps go down, we can still continue keeping that line low enough through the other pump so we don't have any sort of discharge. And you'll see that as we go through here. This is the picture. The plant itself is actually constructed over the VII mine pool. So what you're looking at here is the VII extraction wells. And again, they're bringing water up, vertically about 200 feet into like the headworks of the treatment plant. The first step in the treatment plant is this blend tank. Since we're dealing with 2 different mine pools, we have different water quality out of the 2 mine pools. So this blend tank is basically just an area where we can mix those 2 mine pools to get a similar water quality, going out through the rest of the plant. The next step in the treatment system is basically the Malmstrom oxidizers. Real quick definition of Malmstrom is just a powerful whirlpool. So if you would just think like your fish tank, what we want to do here is we're just going to put a lot of dissolved oxygen. We have big blowers that blow water into the mine pool, and what we're doing is we're driving off the CO2 in the mine water and basically driving that CO2 off. So once this gets turned on here in a couple of weeks, you'll just see a whole bunch of water flowing through and a whole bunch of bubbles going through there, adding O2, driving that CO2 off. And again, you can see we have 2 of them. Again, this is just showing the fans underneath that will add air to that. The next step in the system is our reaction tanks. So this is where our chemical reaction will happen. The mine water has a very low pH, so we need to basically raise that pH up. The way we do that is with lime slurry. And so we're going to add lime slurry into the treatment process. And then these 2 reaction tanks that we have here, you can see that big mixer in there. It's going to basically mix that lime slurry in with the mine water, raise that pH up, and we'll start to see our metals kind of come out of solution, the iron and aluminum. Our water is going to go from kind of a clear water. And once we get to these 2 reaction tanks, you'll start to see that water turn orange. Again, as we introduce that lime slurry, basically we have a large lime silo there. The lime will get delivered dry in tractor trailers. Then at the bottom of that lime silo, we introduce water there, and we're able to make a lime slurry, and then we'll add that lime slurry into the treatment process. That's just the bottom of the lime tank silo there, showing the tank and the different pumps we have. What we see here is the water basically coming out of the 2 reaction tanks, basically, and then there's a long flume, and these flumes will then take that water over to the clarifiers, which should come up next. So we've had the chemical reaction, the reaction tanks. Now we need basically a physical reaction. The iron and the aluminum in that water is going to start coming out of solution, but it needs time. It needs time to settle, and it gets that time in these clarifiers. Basically, you can see those blue rakes at the bottom. As the iron and the aluminum particles settle out, those rakes will basically take those particles into there's a cone in the middle, and it kind of brings all those particles out. Our clean water will go out the top of these clarifiers. Again, this is just showing the inside of the clarifier. The left picture there is the inside of the center well, and you can see kind of the rake drive and that sludge cone in the right-hand picture. After the water leaves the clarifiers, it goes into a polishing pond. again, another thing of sustainability, so, at the treatment plant, we have to create a lime slurry, and then we also have to create a polymer that we introduce into the water to get those metals to settle out. The polishing pond allows us, basically, rather than buying municipal water, we're able to use our water in the polishing pond to create that lime slurry, to create that polymer. So there's some sustainability there. We're not purchasing water. We're making use of the water that we're, basically running through the plant as our service water for other aspects that we need. Water leaves the polishing pond and runs through a constructed wetland. We kind of give a fine filter, removing some of the last iron particles. And then this is a photo, basically coming out through a flume. This will be our discharge at Blacklight Creek. You can see we have some interpretive signs there. People are using the Ghost Town Trail. They can stop by there, kind of look at those signs. It kind of shows the treatment process. There's a backup pond. If for some reason we would have a hiccup in the treatment system, we have an off-spec pond where we can send water to the off-spec pond while we, figure out whatever bug we have in the system, and we can bring that water back into the system. We can drain that off-spec pond, bring that water back into the headworks of the treatment plant and treat that water. This is the control building. We'll have full-time staff there working. You have pumps in there, basically to get rid of the sludge, your iron, aluminum, to be able to pump that sludge. And you also have your polymer systems. That is the quick picture of the control building. There's kind of the brain center there on the right-hand side. There's a lot of communication between, sensors in the plant. We'll have staff there Monday through Friday, but if something goes down on the weekends or after work hours, there's a call-out system to our personnel. Some of that stuff they can do remotely. Some of the stuff they might have to come out, on an emergency, but they'll still be getting notified. I said we'll create a sludge. The sludge we get, we're going to pump that basically back into the Weir mine, but about 2 miles from where the treatment plant site is. So we're not, our extraction wells aren't drawing that sludge in. The sludge we put up, high in the mine. And we have a garage there for, just equipment and storage and, stuff for the staff to work on. And then I'm going to throw it back to John here, and he's just going to talk about some of the.
Yep. So, we kind of get into the why of doing this, right? Other than it's what our bureau does, and we have a mission, and as Secretary Dunn says, the citizens of the Commonwealth are supposed to be promised clean water and have that constitutional right. But what's at stake here is 25 miles of Blacklight that has a trail that parallels almost all of it. So the opportunity for recreation is huge. So trying to put an economic value to this, and this is tough, because our bureau is made up of engineers, and geologists, and scientists. There's not an economist in the group. So if somebody wants to do like a dissertation and thesis, start studying the economic impacts of this. But the only number that we've ever traditionally used has been what Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission has published as estimated economic loss for just fishing and boating. This doesn't get into all the economics of increased loss of the trail, and somebody opened a bait shop and somebody had to go buy a new bicycle tire, and people eat out and the gas to get there and all that. So when you break it down, and depending on how you classify the stream, it's certainly going to be a cold water fishery. It could be a trout stock fishery. Trout stock fisheries certainly see more use. What we're dealing with, as you go through all the numbers here, around $2 million a year in net gain above what it costs us to actually treat. So it is a very good thing for Indiana County and for the Commonwealth in general that we do this. So how do we sustain treatment? We've got multiple sources of funding. I think most in here have heard about the IIJA bill. Our bureau gets $244.8 million a year off of that. We're going to run that plant until 2042 off of that funding. The Stream Act set-aside amendment that altered the bill allows us to take 30% of that 244, which is roughly 73.4 million each year, and set that aside for future mine problems. Mine water is one of those. So if you take that 15 years, you get 20 years actually, because we have 5 years to spend the final grant that we get. break that down, we can't really invest that money other than put it in a treasury account. But still, whatever that's making, like 2.75% right now, that would give us about $1.1 billion to be able to operate and deal with our AMD treatment plants. And there's also mine fires and future subsidence that would have to be covered with that. But that's our future funding for our program. And as I broke it down there, if we took $35 million a year from that, which has been kind of our traditional spending level, we would never draw that down. So it's truly a completely sustainable fund, which you don't find in government very often. So hopefully it stays there. And then we also have the ability with our traditional AMD set aside to take about another $6 million a year and put that back. So we're planning on running this forever. I'll let Ryan kind of conclude with our project partners and hope Ben has some time.
Yeah, so, obviously a project like this, we work with quite a number of folks. You can see, Black Creek Watershed Association, the Black Creek Municipal Authority, Cambridge County Conservation Direct Authority, CNI Trail Council, Foundation for Pennsylvania Watershed, HRI is our contractor on site, Indiana County Conservation District, Indiana County Parks and Trails, our federal regulatory branch, also Service Line and Tetra Tech was a design consultant. So yes, a big thank you to all of our project partners, some of who are here today. Again, nothing happens, without our property owners. So we had to get easement for different things, for our sludge line, to get to the water line there. So here's just a list of our project, property owners that work with the department, to move this project forward. Here's just some basic project information. We started construction back in June of 2022. Our contract expiration date is March of 2025, which we're on target to meet. Our current contract amount is just a shade over $28 million. We have funding, we have Pennsylvania capital budget funds, and then the AMD set aside in the AMLIC program that both come out of the Office of Surface Mining. And then I'm Ryan, and that's John, and we'll give Ben some time here, so, and take some questions on the heat up this time.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for sticking around for us after lunch, and then we'll definitely feel a little bit more laid back. So I'm going to keep it that way. My name's Ben. I work for the Indiana County Conservation District as our conservation program specialist. The watershed's focus, and I just want to get right into it. Don't want to talk too much technical, and definitely want to skip some slides to save some time, because I know questions are always important to get that dialogue going. Just an overall breakdown of what I want to cover today. 3 main areas of interest that the district covers, 2 examples of projects that I want to talk about today to talk about conservation as well as their impact on local economy, community economy, stuff like that. An overall breakdown of the financials here at the Indiana County Conservation District, and then a little wrap up. So a little bit about us. Who doesn't love a mission statement in a presentation like this? My boss said I couldn't speak if I didn't include it in these slides today, so. A little bit about me, not too much. I kind of dated myself, so don't look too closely. I've been with the district for almost 2 years. January 2025 will be my 2-year mark. I did go to Penn State, so sorry for Pitt. I did like it. And then I got my master's in environmental education, at Slippery Rock, and a few things. I actually am from South Jersey, so again, talking and bringing young people, which I would identify myself as a young person, bringing them out here this way to Western PA. I kind of made a long trek from South Jersey, and I do recognize and I do see the community that you guys have built in your history. I see that out here in Western PA, and it's a beautiful thing to see. Like I said, the 3 areas of interest at the district. The first being the dirt and gravel low volume road program. There's a huge pot of money that comes from the State Conservation Commission. And it allows us to work with municipalities to build better their roads, reduce the amount of surface runoff that comes from these utilized roads and dirt roads. Another facet is the street work. That would be my wheelhouse. is working with abandoned mine drainage, AMD, abandoned mine lands, and all those features, as well as stream bank stabilization projects, fish habitat enhancement projects, stuff like that. And the last would be agriculture and soils, with all the farms that we have going on here. The smaller farms, we need a reliable source of money to invest back into these small farmers to make sure that we are keeping our food local as much as we can, and keeping a reliable food source for our county. With that is the ACAP program, the Agricultural Conservation Assistance Program. And across all three of these facets and the district, there's always a huge importance placed on the education in each of these. Every time we go into a project, we want to include some sort of education about that project as well, because that's just one of the best ways to reach your community is to engage with them and talk about what we are doing. So one of the first projects that I want to talk about is the tie trail. We previously, the goddess of of these ghost town, or the ghost town trailhead. The district is excited to sort of enter into this world of trails and building these recreational opportunities. And the way that we are gonna put our mark in that is with this tie trail project, which is an extension on the Hoodabug Trail. It is a grant through DEP Banner, which I'm just use that acronym, it's a very long name. Using those funds as well as some additional funds from the AMBER program, we got about a $3.7 million grant to build a 3 3/4 mile trail. It will stretch from the Hoodabug Trail at the intersection of Lucerne Road Extension, and then it will cross Route 119 with a pedestrian trail by PennDOT. And eventually it will make its way to a property owned by the Central Indiana Water Authority. From there, it follows Yellow Creek to 954 at the present location of several passive treatment systems managed by Black Lake Creek Watershed Association. And there is a refuse pile called the Tide Pile, that in conjunction with this project, but I believe Banner will be reclaiming that pile eventually. And we actually have a project manager here as well. Ryan is a part of that. So we are very excited to have him here. So any questions that are super technical, I'm going to defer to Ryan, so just take that to him. So the overall goals of this obviously is outdoor recreation. We had DCNR come talk about the importance of these trails and the different water features, and we want to connect these trails again with the history of Indiana County. A lot of these towns were coal towns. It's no different with this tie trail. We want to address these AMD, AML issues. Conservation is a huge part of what we do. We want to make this water clean by removing the sources of these pollution where it fits well. Boosting local economies through these recreations, the purchase of local goods when you are going on these trips to explore these different trails and recreational opportunities. Here's a little bit of breakdown. Financial breakdown of how the spending and where the funding is allocated. Almost 80% of it goes to construction. It goes to the workers that do all the hard labor, the materials that we have to buy to build this trail, with guidances from the grant programs. The materials, when they can be, must be sourced and produced in the United States. So it's another reason that we are investing back into America as well as Indiana County where it fits. And only about 6% actually goes to the district to support, our needs, our rent, our utilities, stuff like that. So a lot of the money is going to the hard workers that do the brunt of the work. And the next project that I'm excited to talk about, my little disclaimer, it has not been funded yet. I'm very hopeful that it will be. But for anyone that is an avid fly fisherman or knows their way around Indiana County, including in terms of angling, Little Mahoning is a destination spot for fly fishing. There was a fly fish project about, I would say 30 to 40 years ago already. We put in a grant recently to sort of rehabilitate these fly fishing fish habitat enhancement structures to make this an even bigger destination spot for angling and fly fishing. Outside of just the immediate community that already utilizes it, we want to sort of advertise it as a destination spot for other people to bring their tourism into Indiana County. I won't get too technical about how we're gonna build out the project, but there's about $212,000 project. This is including match. So the actual funds that we are asking from DEP, the Growing Greener Plus grant program, is about 175,000, and the rest is matching funds, cash or in kind from other invested collaborative partners like Kensington Toronto Limited, PA Fish and Boat Commission. They were the ones that did the designs, so they offered their time and their expertise and money to sort of support this project. Western PA Conservancy is another conservation group that helped out a lot with this. And through this project, we want to sort of use this as a catalyst to reform and recreate a Little Mahoning Creek Watershed Association with those local community members. And again, this is another financial breakdown showing that most of this grant funding is allocated to the hard workers that do the work back in the community, the materials that may be pulled from the landowner's property, as well as other resources and materials that we can buy from Indiana County or Pennsylvania as a whole. As I said, this is an overall financial breakdown of the district. It's a lot of numbers, it's a lot of colors. I will break it down into one note you can see, if you can see. On the left pie chart, there's huge blue portion. 33% is coming of our district income is coming from the ACAP program. And if you look on the right one, in that green slide, it's a little bit bigger than it should be, but we usually want to emphasize it. Only 1% of those funds are actually utilized for district expenses like administrative costs and staff costs and stuff like that. So this leaves a huge chunk of money that we are investing back into our local farmers, local farm operations and stuff like that. So that's just a very nice way to show we are using all of these monies from state agency, federal agency, private foundations, and we are putting that back into Indiana County that may have not been there in the first place. Conclusion, basically just a bunch of thank yous to our project partners. This is just a little fancy wording, but this is where I really want to give a thank you. Without all of these grants, this unprecedented time of grant funding opportunities, like the bill funding, this $250 million a year, extremely unprecedented in my opinion. And we are going to continue to pull from that as much as we can to treat the water for the Commonwealth and for Indiana County. So a big thank you to government agencies like DEP, PAMR, political figures that push this legislation that really helps out conservation in Indiana County. To the nonprofit organizations like Evergreen Conservancy, PA Senior Environmental Corps, Black Lake Creek Watershed Association, these different nonprofits that give your volunteer time, your local community knowledge, and the landowners that give their land to allow us to implement these projects. You are all extremely vital in allowing us to do this good work. And lastly, to the industry experts, without your knowledge, your skills, your expertise, we weren't able to get these projects shovel ready and in the ground. So again, a big thank you for the district team.
Thank you, Ben, and what a great way to close with that display of respect for the community, veteran the community, and what respectful collaboration looks like, right? It's great work that these organizations are doing. But I'll open this up to all of you. Do you have any questions on your mind?
You got a copy of that flagship.
Gentlemen, which one? All of them?
Blackwood Creek, Farabaugh.
Done.
Thank you.
All right.
I want to thank the Pennsylvania DEP, Bureau of Abandoned Mines, and all the federal partners for this project. It has been going on for decades. And Janice is with the Black Lake Creek Watershed Association and my friend as well. And to give you some perspective, when I first got involved with the trail, everyone said, "Oh, look at that water." And at the same time, with Congressman John Murtha's help, he had an initiative called America's Industrial Heritage Project. And Indiana County was part of that area that through the National Park Service doing their feasibility study determined that this area built America. We had an industrial heritage, and when it was all over, we were left with bread and dead. So from that, then Congressman Murtha involved the Army Corps, and they worked on a Kiski-Conemaugh River revitalization. And it was brought up because a lot of downstream communities, Pittsburgh being one of them, most of their polluted water was coming from the Black Leg Creek watershed. So the Army Corps with other partners developed that Kiski-Conemaugh River Basin study. And when it was all said and done, it was recommended that the Black Leg Creek was the largest contributor to the pollution. So they were going to walk away. And those of us that were grassroots advocates said, no, you're not going to walk away. We're going to do something about it. And we kept pushing and pushing. The Watershed Association was formed, the C&I Trail Council, an individual grassroots advocate. And today, when I see your presentation, I'm moved to tears. I really am. This has been the work of so many people to clean up this many miles of stream in Indiana County. Do you realize how significant that is to us? What it's going to do? I mean, just the return of investment to have clean water. So thank you very much. And when you do open this treatment plant, are you having like some kind of ceremony that people can come and say, yay? Anything?
Sure. I mean, there's nothing scheduled. Every time we do a huge project like this, yes, there'll probably be multiple events. Normally you want to get it running and get it running well and tuned in before that happens. But we've already had multiple tours there. Matter of fact, Ryan and I are going out to meet a class from IUP at this afternoon. It's going out there. So as soon as we're done here, we're rolling. But it's gotten a lot of attention, and rightfully so, because it is probably the biggest thing environmentally that's happened, at least southern Indiana County, if not the entire county ever. It's huge.
A lot over here.
Could you say a bit more about the sludge of iron, aluminum, polymer sludge, and where you're putting it in the mine to ensure that it won't redissolve all that like that?
We do. Yeah, okay. So it's going into, it's tough to show you without a mind map, but the sink line, so the dip of the coal goes downstream. So we're taking that 2 miles downstream, putting it into the mine. And what we have to do would be then flow back uphill, which is not going to do. So it's going to be isolated in a portion of the workings that are in there. It's going to be down deep, dark. It's going to be completely anaerobic down there. And the sludge itself, actually, once mixed with lime, stays pretty stable. It takes a lot of acidity to redissolve the sludge. So we're not really worried about it re-entraining or returning back to our farms.
I see. And the polymer, does that make it?
All polymer is essentially puts an electrical charge on the iron particle, and it's a very, 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 very small concentration, like parts per billion. You don't need very much of it, so it really is almost absent, but yes, it's there. All it's doing is creating an electrical charge, and those two particles can bond together, make a bigger particle, and that helps enhance the settlement. So that's what it's about. Okay.
We'll go back here and then just say last two, here and then there.
A few years ago, there was some articles about recovering critical minerals from acid mine waters and sludge. Did that ever go anywhere?
It's still bantered about frequently. We know that there are rare earths and critical minerals in mine drainage sludge and in the mine drainage water. It's just in very, very small concentrations. I have yet to see the entity show up and do it properly without asking for a whole lot of government money to help recover. We will gladly give anybody all the sludge they want. But nobody showed up. They, oh yeah, well, we can recover this from you, but you need to give us $30 to help the
One day, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go back. If you both can go up your question.
My question is on the project side.
Yeah, you just completely switched gears, John.
I know, we briefed our senior environmental board, in March of 2023.
Yep.
Said that, we're going to pick up 2 burner discharges, run discharge, trainer, line, Rosebud was going to line the pole. And the treatment system was going to treat it all, and when Rosebud was lining the pole, they were going to, turn it over to them. In your presentation, you said Rosebud was going to pay for $30 million. Then it came out in the paper 10 months later from Jim Street's office, is he still here? He's in the newspaper, it said $24 million taxpayers' money going into that same budget. I just wondered how it came from Rosebud paying for it, the taxpayers.
Yeah, John, so I can't talk about it yet, is the best way to put it, 'cause there's a lot of stuff in negotiation. So nothing is finalized on that, that's the answer. Let's be honest, man.
I know. Thank you so much for your presentation, John and Ryan. It's nice to meet you on Barb Day. I was want to coordinate with you on a tour that we're planning through the Indiana County Decathlon program this spring. We're going to have a tour of the plant. So there is a limit of 25 people. We don't have a date and time yet. We're still working that out. But thank you for your presentation. Thank you, Lance, for coordinating this. Really happy to work with you. And some of my other questions were already.
All right, thank you, gentlemen, very much for insightful discussion.